It was just past sunset when Officer Harris started his usual patrol along the quiet edge of Millstone Avenue. The streets were mostly empty, the city beginning to settle in for the night. But something made him slow down near an old phone booth, a rare sight these days. Inside stood a young black girl, around 10 years old, clutching the receiver with both hands. Her eyes darted nervously through the glass, and her lips trembled as she whispered into the phone. Harris, a seasoned officer with over 15 years on the force, had seen many things, but something about this moment felt off and unusual. It wasn't just the fear in her face, but the way she kept glancing over her shoulder as if someone was watching. He pulled over, stepped out slowly, and began walking toward her. She didn't notice him at first, but then she said something into the phone that made Harris stop cold. His hand instinctively reached for his radio. His heart raced. Whoever was on the other end of that line wasn't just any ordinary contact hit, was someone that sent a chill down his spine. Without wasting another second, Harris stepped back, grabbed his shoulder mic, and calmly called for backup. The dispatcher responded quickly, but Harris didn't take his eyes off the girl. What was she involved in? Was she in danger? Or was there more to this than met the eye? One thing was clear. This wasn't going to be just another routine stop. Officer Harris stayed a few steps back. Watching the girl carefully, she looked no older than 4th or 5th grade, wearing a light hoodie that seemed a little too thin for the chilly evening. Her sneakers were worn out, and her hands shook as she held the receiver close to her ear. Harris noticed she kept repeating the same words softly, almost like she was reciting something. But it wasn't until he heard the name she said, barely audible through the cracked last, that his stomach dropped. It was a name he hadn't heard in years, one tied to a long-closed case involving a missing child, a string of identity thefts, and a man who vanished before he could be arrested. Harris didn't know how this little girl was connected, but her presence here now, alone, using a public phone in a nearly forgotten part of the city, didn't sit right. And that name spoken in such a familiar, trusting tone was more than a coincidence? He glanced around the street. It was quiet, too quiet. A streetlight flickered above. A dog barked a few blocks down. But there were no adults nearby, no guardian, no one who might be looking for her. That was the second red flag. When backup confirmed they were on the way, Harris stepped a little closer and softly called out, "Hey there, are you okay?" The girl froze. Slowly, she turned her head, eyes wide, her lips parting but not to answer. Instead, she whispered one word that made his heart stop. "Help." Officer Harris's pulse quickened as the girl slowly stepped out of the phone booth. Her eyes were glassy, as if she'd been holding back tears for hours. She looked at him, then down the street behind her, like she was expecting someone or trying to make sure someone wasn't coming. "Is someone after you?" he asked gently, keeping his voice calm and low. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she clutched a small notebook close to her chest, the edges of the pages bent and worn. From the corner of his eye, Harris saw headlights in the distance, maybe backup, or maybe someone else. The girl finally nodded, but then quickly shook her head. "He told me not to talk to anyone," she whispered. "But you looked safe." That one word, he tightened everything inside Harris. "Who is he?" he asked. She didn't respond. Instead, she handed him the notebook, hands trembling. Harris flipped it open. Inside were drawings, names, and what looked like addresses, some crossed out. And in the middle of the page was a name he recognized from a cold case, one involving a foster home scandal from nearly a decade ago. Children who vanished. Reports that were buried. People who never got justice. Now it was all coming back. Suddenly, the radio on Harris's shoulder crackled. "Unit 7. Be advised, dark SUV seen circling the area. Possibly connected to missing persons alert out of state." Harris's grip tightened on the notebook. Whatever this girl had stumbled into wasn't just local, and it wasn't over. Harris didn't hesitate. He gently placed a hand on the girl's shoulder and guided her behind his patrol car, shielding her from view as the SUV slowly rolled into sight. Its windows were tinted pitch black, the kind of vehicle that didn't belong on quiet streets like these. The engine idled for a moment, then moved forward slowly, deliberately as if scanning the area. Harris could feel the girl trembling beside him. "Stay low," he whispered, crouching beside her. His other hand hovered near his holster, not because he wanted to use it, but because something told him this wasn't just a lost child case anymore. That notebook she gave him, Mitt, wasn't scribbles. It was a map. A breadcrumb trail that someone had clearly been trying to erase. And now that trail had led to this moment. The SUV turned the corner and came to a stop just 20 feet from them. A man stepped out. Dressed in all black, he looked calm too calm. He glanced around casually, as if pretending to look for a friend, but Harris could see it in his eyes. He wasn't lost. He was hunting, before Harris could call for an update. The man's gaze locked onto the phone booth. Empty. His eyes narrowed. And then he reached into his coat pocket. The girl gasped. Harris instinctively pulled her closer, voice firm into the radio. "This is Officer Harris. I need all available units now. Suspect is armed or attempting something. We don't have much time." And then the man started walking toward them. Harris positioned himself in front of the girl, body tense as the man in black approached with deliberate steps. Every second felt stretched thin. Then, out of nowhere, the girl tugged at Harris's sleeve, her voice urgent but quiet. "It's not him. That's not the man I was talking to. He's someone else." Harris's mind raced. If this man wasn't who she'd been afraid of, then who was he on? Why was he circling the area like he belonged here? Before he could ask, the man suddenly raised both hands, showing he was unarmed. "I'm not here to hurt her," he said firmly, his voice calm but strained. "I'm trying to protect her." Now Harris was caught between instincts. His training told him to stay cautious, but something about the man's voice. It held truth, or at least desperation. "Who are you?" Harris demanded. "I used to work for the same system that failed her," the man said, glancing nervously toward the street. "There are others looking for her people who don't want her story getting out. She's not the only one." Before Harris could respond, his radio crackled again. "Unit 7, urgent update, missing child alert, just went national. Suspects may include law enforcement impersonators. Approach with extreme caution." That's when it hit Harris like a punch to the gut. If this man wasn't the threat, then someone else might already be close. Too close. Behind them, a second car one Harris hadn't noticed before slowly rolled to a stop. And this time, no one got out. The second car's engine cut off, and the silence was deafening. Harris moved instinctively, placing himself between both vehicles and the girl. The man in black stepped back, hands still raised, but his eyes were locked on the car. "That's them," he muttered. "They're not here for discussion." Before Harris could respond, the back door of the second car cracked open just slightly. A figure inside didn't step out. Instead, a camera lens peeked through the gap. Harris's gut twisted. Whoever was inside wasn't just watching. They were documenting something. Maybe scouting, maybe tracking. But whatever it wasn't. Good dot with backup still minutes away. Harris made a snap decision. Get her in the car. He barked at the man, now less a suspect and more an ally. The girl didn't hesitate. She dashed behind the cruiser, ducking into the back seat. The man followed, never breaking eye contact with the second vehicle, as Harris reached for the driver's door. The second car suddenly reversed, tires screeching. It tore down the street in a blur, vanishing around the corner. Harris got on the radio, calling in the description, direction, and potential surveillance threat. Moments later, sirens echoed in the distance. The girl clutched the notebook tightly as she sat inside the car, tears finally falling. But as she wiped them away, she said something that made both men pause. "There's another one, another kid, still with them." And just like that, what they thought was the ending became the beginning of something even bigger. The patrol car sped toward the station, lights flashing but siren off, keeping a low profile just in case they were being followed. The girl sat in the back, quiet now, her notebook clutched in her lap. She had said there was another child, a boy, younger than her, still being held. That simple truth had shifted everything. This wasn't just about rescuing one girl anymore. It was about exposing an entire network that had stayed hidden in plain sight. Back at the station, Officer Harris personally walked her inside, past the noise and flashing monitors, into a quiet interview room. She opened her notebook again and pointed to one of the crossed-out addresses. "That's where I got away," she whispered. "He's still there. I think he's scared to leave." Her voice cracked, but she didn't cry this time. She was brave, stronger than any child should have to be. The man in black, now identified as a whistleblower from an old foster care investigation, agreed to help law enforcement. His records, combined with the girl's drawings and names, gave authorities the first solid leads in a case that had gone cold for years.